which is going to go to 5.
Hello.
Good morning, everybody. I remembered that today's class is at 10 o'clock, not noon. I've actually done some stuff. But the video from yesterday should be done processing soon, and I will send it out. And then in a day or two, I will send out this video when this one's done. And then when I send out the second recording.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it. The volume was real loud. When I send out the second recording, I'll put both with it. So that's my gang, I'll put both with it.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. Rachel's just blasted her brain with sound. But after we finished yesterday, I was determined to figure out why I was struggling with cutting and trying to save some netting. So I'm going to just do that right now. I'm going to recut a couple layers of our high-low tutu, and then so shorter in the front, longer in the back. And it is, when you want to do it and conserve net, you do end up with the front will be on the left of one cut, and then the front will be on the right of the other cut, which means that one of your fronts, every other front will have a seam in it, or every other front you can just overlap it when you ruffle. So what we've got so far is Tom, who's our helper today. He's ruffled 7 and 8 together. He's ruffled 1 and 2 together, and I've already put 1 and 2 on the panty. And I've already got layer 6 cut out, so I've already cut 6. So I'm going to cut 5 and 4 right now. So I'm going to cut 5, which goes from 4.5 at the front to 10.5 at the back and 7.5 at the side. Then I'm going to show you how you actually do it the right way to save fabric, and we're going to cut out the next one going down number 4. So like the last section of video 1, just completely ignore it. I was an emotional mess. None of that made any sense. Did you raise your hand at me?
No.
Oh.
Probably massaging my ear.
Your face is even red.
God, it's so bad.
Rachel got a sound blast. Okay, so I've got my 4 widths of 54. So you can do this with 5 or 6 or whatever, however full you want your tutu to be. But just know that you're going to fold it into 4ths. And in a little bit, we're going to cut a starburst, more shaped top. We're going to fold it into 8s because we're going to do 8 bursts from our star. So when I open up my 4, so again, this is revisiting the last thing that I totally massacred yesterday. I think it's this new time slot. You know, I haven't sat here and thought about what I'm doing for a couple hours, but I got my A game on today. So the way this is folded, I have my center back on the left, and I also have my center front on the left. We're going to cut one piece out, then we're going to end up with the opposite thing. Our front and back are going to flip. Oh, yeah, my mic is pushed. If I put it like that, does that work? It's not rubbing stuff. Okay, so let's do this first one first. I wonder if it's the washing machine. Let's see. Microphone. We're listening to it on our line. It's the broadcast line, and it doesn't sound echoey. Is it everybody having an echo?
A couple of people.
Let's see. It's recording. It's going.
Is that Bluetooth speaker off too?
Oh,
I turned the sound off. There should be.
Oh, you got it. Rachel's going to switch off one electric device that might be interfering with us. So I'm just sticking a couple pins in here so that when I unfold this, I don't lose everything. I want to kind of keep some control here. So on the left is going to be my front and back, and we're going to cut 4.5 up to 10. So I'm going to mark on the left 4.5 and 10.5. So 4.5 is going to be my front. Is it better now? Is the sound less echoey? We did some electric-y stuff to try. Yeah. Better. Oh, good. I think think it's that speaker interferes. So 4.5 and 10.5. So that's my front and my back. Oh, you can't see it. That's my front. So I've marked my front right here, 4.5, and my back, 10.5. Now I'm going to go over and mark my side, and for this one is 7.5. So I'm going to come down. This whole section is side, both sides, the right and the left side. And you know what? I think just mark this stuff with a Sharpie in the real world too. Nobody's going to see it. Rachel says use a pencil. I'm a heathen. Yeah, that's true. The pencil doesn't make too much of a mess. So now we want to open this up. And our fold is 4.5. We're going to go from 4.5 to 7.5 at the side here. And then we're going to go down to our long part. So before I cut this all out now, I'm going to put just a couple pins in here so that it doesn't explode. And I'm going to use, instead of that great big long ruler, I'm going to use, so I'm just angling my ruler so that it looks like it's going to hit 7.5. Oh, I was close to cutting my cord. I worked with this sweet lady at the Black Hills Playhouse that every summer people would just give her headphones because she was constantly rotary cutting off her headphones. Raphael's mom. Now we have, I know, right? That's going to become my back for the next one. So there's our side. Now we're going to cut to our 10.5. Just keep arranging and arranging. So this front is going to be on the fold. But our next front is not going to be on the fold. So I'm going from 10.5 to 7.5. And I've got a few more patterns requests to send out to everybody. So before we cut the next one, Tom, I'm going to give you this to ruffle. And let me make sure that we know what end is getting ruffled. So this is layer 5, so it's going to go to 6. So Tom is going to take these two things. Right? How fun is this? I will hand you the right part that's going to get ruffled. Hey, okay, so that's the end that you're going to start in there, and then you can just kind of unknot all of that. Now let's kind of look at our big chunk here and figure out. So we cut up this direction. This was our back on the right. So that's going to become our new front. So now our front is going to be over here, but we've got a split in the net and not a fold. And then this is going to become our back all the way over here. Aha! Does that make sense now more than the train wreck I did yesterday? So this is our longer edge. So this was our front for the last packet. So now this is going to be our back for the next one. So I'm going to go, that was number 5 that we just gave Tom. So now we're going to cut out 4. So we're going to go 9 inches, 6.5, and 4 inches. So my back is going to be 9. And my front is going to be all the way over here, is going to be 4 to 6.5 to 9. So my front is 4. And now I've got to fold it in half to find my 6.5. So there's my back. So right now there's a fold in my back, but we're going to just split the back. Does that, have I cleared that up, or do we feel more happy about what I'm doing? Because yesterday I was just like on another planet. So we're finding the side again, which is going to be 6.5. 6.5. And actually, so you end up doing kind of this. So you've got your big thing essentially folded in half, like, right, like 2 layers kind of. Here's your side. What we're doing is we're having a front that angles to a back. So right, and then so our front goes from this side to this side. So we had a front on the left, we had a front on the right. The next one we will have a front on the left, and so on. We're like nestling it together. If it starts to get really off, you know, if you start to get your piece of netting starts to get a huge angle in it, you can just kind of shore it off straight again and keep going, so that you're just wasting a little bit rather than wasting a whole bunch. Whoops. So now there's our side. So we're going to open this back up, and we're going to go from our front, from our 4 inches to our side, which is 6. Get a 8-foot long table to do this. It's much easier. So I'm looking at where I'm going to. Oh my gosh, yes, those are crazy. I really want to go see that exhibit now. What is it? Christianity? What's the name of the exhibit? It's like Heavenly Bodies. Clothing of the liturgical. Yeah, that looked pretty cool. Someone had wings, lot of popey looking hats. I wonder if Neil made anything for that. What?
I think hers was
Versace. So now that my back is over here, I can't have a back on the fold. So I just have to cut the fold off. So this is my layer 4, which is going to go to layer 3. So we're going to get this prepared for Mr. Tom. My interview I had a phone interview yesterday, and after Rachel left, they started asking like if Carlo and I had babies, and I said we've got the dogs. Like the interview turned into kind of like yeah, that I was getting interviewed for that award yesterday, and then the guy's like, tell me about your home life and your husband and your family, and do we have kids, and if we're going to get kids. I don't know, I think he was just trying to spin a little more fun article. But Tom said they'll only write out the first 2 questions I answered in the P&D. We'll see. Yay, throw that one on my machine. And then, so we're going to give Tom now our layer 3 and 4. So layer 4 is the first place where we start our angle. So it's getting wider at the back. 3 is our first layer that there's no shape at all. So 3 is just the same width the whole way. And then 4 is our first tapered layer. And pretty soon we'll be able to flip this whole thing over and look at it. So you've got that. And then you're going to get, so this is the one where he's got a split in the front, I believe. Yeah. So you're going to get all the way to this split. And here, you know, we always say seam everything together. If you just have a couple layers every now and then with a split in it, just overlap a few inches and ruffle it. And you don't need to seam that together. But if you had seams, if you had a lot of pieces, I would say seam them together. Okay, so just pull that pin out before you ruffle it. Cool. Okay, So we're going to move our netting out of the way for just a little bit. Now, let's kind of look. So I think I sent almost everybody but the last, like we had 2 people register kind of later on. If that is you, remind me. And I sent everybody part 1 of the classical tutu date, which almost everybody has done anyway. I haven't like made a proper panty with a leg casing and everything in it. We're just using this so that we have something to look at. So we've got our first chunk on the panty, and we ruffled it doubled. Good morning, Sabina. Sabina's here. So this has 1 and 2. Right now, Tom is ruffling 3 and 4. He just finished 5 and 6. And 5 and 6 is where we can start to see the short in the front, long in the back. So my center front here, it just angles really nice to my short front, and then it gets longer and longer and longer until we move around the back. So if we just kind of put this circle on the table, we can even kind of see, here's where our tutu is heading. We've got short in my left, in my bejeweled hand here, and long on the right. So that's what we're ending up with. And then I've already got ruffled my top 2 pieces, which I've lost. Do you see a ruffle back there behind the table? Oh, it's right there. Thank you. So once you ruffle that one, we're going to sew them on. So let's look at the top 2. So this is the longest equation. And you don't have to ruffle your netting layers together. We do just because our machine can handle it. Another thing you can do is ruffle or gather them separately and then just join them together. Because we always go for like less time sewn on the panty. But here you can see it too. Here's our longest part in the back and our shortest part in the front. And let's take this over to the industrial machine. Don't come over with the camera just yet. We're going to kind of start drawing out our starburst tutu a little bit so that I can think about it and Rachel can make sure I don't screw it up, right? That sounds fair. We can do this. Pay attention, Rachel. So for our starburst thing, the easiest way to figure this out is to just draw yourself like a little plan. So this, let's first kind of draw in little what we're going for. We want spokes that are coming around. We're going to make a spoke. Then we're going to make a spoke that falls in between that. So this is like kind of like a classical tutu where the top gets shorter, right? Or where it goes short, short, longer, 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 and then towards the top, however many layers you want, it gets shorter, 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 like an inside out, like, or an upside down tutu. And then we're gonna make points that are even longer than that, like a pine cone. You get where we're going? Yeah. I have to look into Rachel's eyes to make sure I don't screw that up. So, and I'm gonna stitch a ribbon on the edge of this, and we'll put a little die on it so that you can like really see what's going on. So the first thing is to decide how many points, or you can do curved points. You know, they don't have to come to a point. Maybe we'll do a slight curve, might look prettier. We're gonna do 8 because that's the easiest to demonstrate with and fold up. So what you're gonna do is just draw your layer and imagine, we're like drawing out the whole top of the tutu, and we're imagining that it's folded over 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's folded up 8 times. And let's just say that we're going to make it 14 inches at our longest. Actually, you know what I should do? Let's use the lines on our paper as an inch. Each line is an inch. That would make it even easier, wouldn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Would you snag me a Kleenex out of the bathroom? And then I'm going to unplug my microphone for a second. My nose is dripping. I don't want to blow my nose into the microphone. So this is even easier. I've used the lines on my paper each to represent an inch. And then I'm going to take a pencil and kind of just start drawing out what I think I want to happen. Oh, thanks, Rachel. She's going to put her hand over this.
Hi.
Just keep talking. Thanks, Tom. I'll give you some more later on. Tom has finished our ruffles. Okay, my nose is blown. We're ready to go. So you're imagining that this is 1/8 of your tutu, right? So we've got our oval. We have our oval, our netting, divide in half, divide in 4, divide it again. So what we're looking at here is just one section of our tutu. So I'm going to use a pencil first and just kind of draw in what I think I want to do before I commit to it with the marker. So I'm putting in some curve there, and then if I kind of like refer back to my starburst pine cone snowflake thing a little bit, so then that means that I want a point on each side of that curve. But do I want the points to just meet? Do I want my point from, so we're going to call this, we're the shortest one, we're just going to call 1, 2, 3. So we're going from short 1, medium 2, 3 is going to be our longest. Do you want the points to just meet each other, or do you want to like jazz it up with a little more beauty and make the points surpass each other? So I should do points that pass, right? Don't you think, Rach? Yeah. So we're going to make points that pass each other. So I'm going to just, to make this even clearer, I'm going to divide that into half and just work with one half and the other half. So here's going to be my longest layer, is going to go to there. That's my longest. And then my next one is going to go from here to there. So my point is going to overlap it just a little bit. And I can just fold this over so that I can see my marker and redraw that side. So now we've got that much going on. Get rid of those pencil lines. So now we're going to have, so 1 and 3 have a similar shaped thing going on. So now my number 1, I'm going to make also kind of overlap that a little bit. So let's marker that in. I like this side better. So now we kind of have our cutting plan. But let's take this now and we're going to redraw it so that we have each separate thing to make some notes on. So this is going to be, I'm going to draw out just my number 1. Then I'm going to slide it down and draw my number 2. Number 1. Number 2 has the points on the opposite side. And then let's draw number 3 yet on another page. And I'm lining my lines up, my grid kind of, because we're cheating. We're not cheating, we're being smart. And we're using that every line on the paper is an inch. So now we have 1, our shortest at the hip, 2, our mediumest, and 3, our longest. And these are folded into 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we've got to count the lines. So 1 is going to be 3 inches at its shortest, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at the longest. So it's going to go from 3 inches to 8 inches. And if I wanted if I want to get a curve, I've got 2 choices. I can just eyeball this curve in here, or if you want to figure out one more measurement, if you're like that, you could figure out one more measurement in the middle, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. about 5 inches to that point. Then let's do our number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's going to be 12 inches at the outside, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches at the inside, at the high point. 12 on my edge, 6 in my middle. And then this long one should be 14, because we said we're doing 14 inches. And this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 or 9. I'm going to go back to my original one and count that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 inches. Everybody's on board? So here's kind of our plan. This is 1 at the hip, 3 inches to 8 inches in the middle. Number 2, 12 inches to 6 inches in the middle. Number 3, 9 inches to 14 inches in the middle. And we came up with that by kind of drawing our little ground plan out first. So if you wanted 16 points, you would fold it yet another time. If you wanted 6 or 5 points, you just have to fold your netting into 6th or 5ths. But we're going to do 8 because that's the easiest. So I think let's actually cut this out before I sew the tutu we've been working on, before I sew those layers on and we look at it. Because we're going to dye these edges, and then we're going to give it to Tom or Sabina to put a little piece of ribbon on the edge, so that once we're all gathered up, we can really see what's going on top of this white netting. So let's cut this sucker out. So I'm going to just keep cutting from the piece that I've got going, which right now is terribly folded into 4ths. So I'm gonna remake sure that I've got this into 4ths. And so now that I'm in 4ths, I'm gonna fold it one more time so that our packet is into 8ths. And if you were cutting on the cross, you could just deal with each section and cut your shapes into it and then stitch them together, or you could stitch all your seams together and then cut them. And actually, if you cut this on the cross for this style, it's going to help you out, because your seams are going to either be your 4ths or your 8ths, depending on how many panels you use. I think we put up those pictures the other day of the book Dressing for the Ballet, and we found the $170 one on Amazon. I think somebody bought it because it's not there now.
They show up though.
They do. We've seen it much lower than that too. We should just. Have you seen it? I've seen it for $75, $90. Yeah. I wonder how you'd go about getting permission to copy it and turn it into a PDF. We should write the publisher and see. So I'm going to just straighten out my piece first. So I'm in 8ths. I've got 8. I'm going to double check. It was just out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's right there in front of the other computer. 6, 7, 8. So we're in 8ths. So now I'm going to cut my number 1, which is going from 3 inches to 8 inches to 3 inches. And then I might actually be able to flip number 2 the other way and kind of nestle them together. But we are going to lose some stuff. So I'm going to find the very middle of this. And I'm going to just draw on here so that it shows up well. Did I just lose this ruler? Here it is. What year was it published? It's in London. It's in London. Oh, okay. We'll Google it and see. Yeah, Google it and see if they're still around. We're going to see if we can get this book turned into a PDF and share it. I think so. So I'm going to just put a big long middle line that we're going to use on a couple. We're just making this clear as we can, for my sake too. So we're going to go 3 to 8 to 3. So I'm going to mark 3 on my side. I'm going to mark 3 on this side. If you want, you could just fold this in half again. Maybe that's actually what I should do. So we're going to go from 3 up to 8 like that. So let's just fold this one more time. So I've got my 8ths folded into 16ths, and I'm going to cut from 3 to 8 inches, and I'm going to cut a slight curve into it. So I'm going to just kind of give myself just an idea of what I'm cutting. So there's 3 inches out to 8. And I'm going to put a couple pins in this because we're going to stick some dye on this. Just, we're not going for beauty, but we're going for, to be able to see.
Bought out by the company that published the Harry Potter.
Oh, well, we should find out. Should this be a Tom project? Write these people and see. He seems, yeah. But if they gave us permission to copy, it would be cool. We can try. We can try. So now, right, this is my leftover space from cutting 1. And now we're going to do number 2, which goes 12, 6, 2. So we can actually kind of use this space wisely. So first I'm going to go up 12 from each side. And I want to make sure that indeed my 6 fits in there. So there's 12. So we'll have a little scrappy bits left over, but not bad. So we're going to go up 12. This is 2. We're cutting yeah, I know. Watch me. We've cut number 1. Cut number 1. Now we're cutting number 2, which is like the choir kids standing in between number 1. Everybody find your window. So now we're going to 6. So you see, we're going to end up with just this little bit of scrappy bit left over, but we're not wasting a lot because there is a circle of an island of plastic outside of Korea, and we don't want to add to that. Right? Right. So I could just cut my, yes, question.
Is it too much to fold into 16 to get
no.
symmetrical?
Yeah, somebody said, can you just start out with folding it into 16? Absolutely. I'm just kind of going back and forth between 8 and 16 so that I don't screw up. Let's see. It's because I have SeaWorld on the brain. We're getting ready to start a SeaWorld project, which is slow to get going, but it's getting there. They're trying to work with our little shop like we're Pepsi Cola or Doritos chips or something finance-wise. So now let's lay these how the folds is. So now you can kind of start to see, even before we ruffle or do anything, what's happening. So we've got one more to cut. We're going to cut out number 3, our furthest, outest, mostest. And it's going to go from 9 inches to 14 inches to 9 inches. So since we cut 1 and cut 2, we have now a clean edge to start with. So I'm going to cut number 3 going this way. I'm going to just line my straight edge up to my straight edge. I'm on it today. I'm on it. I know. Rachel says I'm getting too cocky. It's true. It's true. Once you get cocky, this stuff just goes downhill. So now I've got 14 in my center spoke, and we're going down to 9. And then we're going to fold it back into 16ths. And I'm going to make sure my straight edges stays all nice and straight. And then I'm going to just eyeball this little bit of curve like that. Cut that out. All right. So now we can even more better see. Hey, if it looks pretty like that, it's going to look pretty when it's all ruffled up. I'm going to go and dye kind of the middle of each of these. If you want to flip around over there, you guys have all seen us dye stuff before. So we're going to just kind of dye I'm going to actually just dye just like like a triangle where the longest part is on each of these. Instead of dyeing color all the way over, we're going to try to kind of emphasize what's going on. So let's go over there. Then I'm going to safety pin it and throw these in a dryer for a minute so that we can come back to them all nice and dry. Sabina, would you grab me another towel from the back? Because I'm going to use this one to get all dirty. Just throw a towel on this round ironing board. Any big towel. So, hey, and the other thing, guess what? My sister, everybody, had boxes of paper patterns at her house from when we sold paper patterns. I didn't know it. We have all these like actually printed patterns. Rachel and I will make some kind of like rummage sale style or grab bag style groups of patterns, which is something we did a long time ago. So watch out for that in the next few days or early next week. We're going to be getting rid of some more paper patterns, dirt cheap, in lots of sizes. Thank you, Sabina. That's perfect. In fact, if you want to peek through these later this week, you can have some patterns. You guys didn't hear me tell Sabina that. Shh, that's the secret. That's a perk of working here. Okay, so I've just got some purple because we're just trying to kind of emphasize what's going on here. And I'm going to just stir it up with a ruler or something because I don't have, oh, my handy screwdriver. I'm going to just stir it with a screwdriver. So we're not going for anything actually color-wise, just that we want a little bit of color. And I'm going to just squish it out in a towel. So I'm going to just get kind of the triangle part of each of these so that when it's ruffled, we can really see what's going on. And we're going to just stick some pink trim on the edge just so the edge really shows up. We're not going to really be going for like beauty or anything. We're just going for make the edge show. So there's that one. You could do the opposite. You could just dye the edges a color instead of dyeing the middle a color. You can do a different color on each layer. There's so much you can do. There's so much you can do. So this one, I want to get the triangle going like that. And just cook your fingers until you get what you want. And you could also, if you want to really get stuff lined up, you could put a little tiny clip in the top where your fold is so that you're lining up all your netting as you go. You know, because instead of having to eyeball your points getting all in the same place, if we put a little clip in it later, that'll help. Or we could even just draw on it with a Sharpie or chalk. So here's where we've got that going on right now. And now let's dip this guy in there. Let's do his triangle and then his edges just for fun. I guess this purple tutu is a boy. I've been referring to it as a he. And lately we've been like dyeing a lot and airbrushing because you can really get good color with the airbrush. So let's do that, and then just for fun, let's get his edges. So I'm going to just kind of like origami this up so I can get the the hem edge matched up. And let's just put a little bit of color right on that edge. Let's make a little edge down there, out in the purple triangle playland. I was trying to do a Bob Ross thing. I couldn't think of something. What would Bob Ross say? Make a happy little triangle with a happy little edge. The edge is a stream. And it wants to live right there. Sabine is feeding me lines. She knows her Bob Ross. So now I'm going to just safety pin this together a little bit. So kind of so kind of here's what we got going on. And actually previewing this little bit right now, I can't see my purple triangle over here in my longest one. So I'm going to dye the color a little bit further down, because if it doesn't show when you hold your layers together before you ruffle them, it's not going to show after you ruffle it. So I'm noticing I want my purple, my long triangle to go down much further than I had it, because it's going to look like the color will be placed the same as when it's ruffled and sewn as when it is just folded up. So I've lowered my purple triangle. Now let's look at it again and see if the purple triangle shows in its window. There we go. So there's our pretty packet that we're going to throw in the dryer and then ruffle up. So to throw it in the dryer, I'm just going to put a couple safety pins in it. I can't reach a couple safety pins. I've got, oh, there's one right here. We'll find another one. There's got to be another safety pin. Yeah, just safety pin this. Sabina's going to throw this in the dryer for me. I'm going to, now I'll pull the straight pins out. So I'm even just leaving this all folded up because it's not going to hurt anything. So I'm going to just put a couple safety pins in here. So you can let this hang dry, but if you don't want to wait around, just throw it in the dryer. I'm taking the straight pins out because they end up in my shirts and Carlo's shirts. And I'm going to put another safety pin kind of right there to keep all this from exploding. Yeah, if you just let this go for a few minutes. So does anybody have questions about this? Because we're going to go back for a little bit and just stick some of the layers on our initial classical short in the front, long in the back tutu. We'll be ruffling that and looking at it soon. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so let's go over here to this machine and stick the rest of everything on here. So we're only doing a tutu with 8 layers, and I've got layer 1 and 2 already on my panty, and 3 and 4 are where it starts to get short in the front and long in the back. So my kind of stand-in panty here. We have panty shape, but not actually a panty. I've done 1 and 2 going up, and then I'm going to just do all the rest going down. So I'm going to do my 3 and 4 going down. So that means I have to make sure that my 3 actually ends up under my 4. And I'm going to fold this in half, and I want to really make sure I have the middle in the middle so that my high-low stuff doesn't get kind of crooked or slide around. So I've got my middle. And then I want to make sure that 3, my shorter, is underneath. And I'm going to pin that in the middle of my panty. And I'm just kind of eyeballing where this is going on my panty. And I can also see that I've got about 2 inches longer than the panty. So I'm going to kind of ease 2 inches on here. And we usually ease a little bit more on over the hip. If you want to be like ultra precise with the high-low idea, you could ease this one a little more evenly. But we like to put a little more at the hip. So we've got 1 and 2 on, and now I'm sewing 3 and 4 on. And I'm just eyeballing where this is going on my panty. I don't have lines on my panty. Pay attention to the underside because that is where all the trouble will happen. So now that I'm at my side, I'm going to just kind of ease in a tiny little bit just by hand. I'm just going to scrunch it in ever so slightly in a couple spots. Oh, Rachel pointed out I'm doing this with no bobbin. That's live TV. I thought I put a full one in yesterday. I guess I used it up. No, I need this weirdo bobbin. Oh, they're all almost empty. Let's see how far this one goes. Well, I got a good 1/4 of an inch sewn on before I ran out. So I'm going flat at the butt and the back. We don't want to ease any over the butt to make the butt super fat. It's already bigger. And then at the side, I'm going to ease a little bit more on. And we're going to not squish any as we go towards the front. I've got my front, oh, it's like a 1/4 inch off the center, so pretty close. Ease a little bit at the side. Now, depending on the shape you want, if you want this to be more flat, more parallel to the floor, the next layers you could sew on facing the sky or going up to the girl instead of down to the floor. But we're gonna steam this one to be kind of more English, like droop in the back a little bit. So since I want this to droop, I'm gonna push everything, all the rest of my layers are gonna sew down. Cut off my crepe paper from the ruffler. And I've got my center back almost just an inch from the edge, which is what we're going for. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's put on 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8. And I better make sure I know which one is 5 and 6 and which one is 7 and 8. I'm going to check. 7 and 8 should be longer. Okay. So I'm going to find the middle of 5 and 6. And since we've ruffled double, which you don't have to do, but you can if you can. So I need to make sure that my doubled one, that my 5 is indeed underneath when it's sewn onto my panty. Oh, that's a loud fast train. They usually don't just. Why is it going 1,000,000 miles an hour? That's weird. That wasn't a metro or you? Oh, that was kind of scary. I don't know if you could hear it in there. I hope that little truck isn't out there on the track checking the track. He'll be plowed over. So same thing, we're going to keep our back a little more flat. Then we're going to ease a little bit over the hips. Now with this starbursty one, to try to keep our starburst as even, the points even, rather than the edge of the netting fuller at the hip, we're going to put it on more even when we do our starburst one. And, okay, here goes 5 and 6, and then we just have 7 and 8 left. And we're going to give it a little bit of steam and look at it on the dress form. And I'm going to pin my middle in the middle. And I'm going to ease. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Rachel got our other ones out of the dryer. Do you want to just ruffle the top two together and then ruffle the bottom one. So Rachel's gonna, because I'm gonna be sitting here for a minute, Rachel's gonna ruffle the shorter two and then the longer two. And then, yeah, ruffle 1 and 2 together. Or actually do 2 and 3 together. Ruffle 2 and 3 together and then ruffle 1 on its own. And then just kind of try to line up the points, you know what I mean, your 16ths as you go. So Rachel's gonna ruffle our dyed one. And I'm at my side now, so I'm gonna ease in a little bit. Flatter at my front. I've got my front lined up well. Oh, I've got my front lined up. Oh, let's actually ruffle that one and then have Sabina stitch some of that pink ribbon on the edge of number 2. Yeah. So Sabina's, just so we can really see the edge. So here's the ribbon. We're gonna have Sabina put and you don't have to worry about making it beautiful on the corners or anything. She's just gonna edge. So I'll show everybody in the camera. Sabina's just gonna edge our number 2 of our starburst ruffle so that we can like really see the edge on one layer. Not necessarily how we might finish it for a finished costume, but just to kind of start to give you kind of ideas about maybe you want to put lace on there or, you know, different stuff. So now I'm at my side, so I'm going to ease a little bit more on. And I'm going to see if my back is about to hit in the right spot. I need to ease about another inch on there. So I'm going to ease another inch on there. Now that I'm eased in a little bit, I can just finish my back nice and flat at the butt. Ooh, that's looking pretty already. Cute. Okay, we're ready for the last one to go on here. So it's starting to take shape. It's in the next 2 that we put on, which are ruffled together, the back, you'll see that the back is even a little more longer than the front. It gets a little more dramatic each time. I'm going to find my middle again. Oh, and look, my sides actually line up too. I can see the Sharpie from my side. And there's a pin from my middle. Destiny. I'm going to say my seam allowance at the top is about 1 inch. So let's put this last layer on. Flatter at the back. I'm going to ease a little bit at the sides. Watch the underside. You can also mark the side of all of your gathers and the side of your panty to just get more stuff hitting. The more lined up, the better. And I'm not going to stitch up the crotch or center back of this panty nicely. I'm just going to stitch it up so that we can steam this a little bit and look at it. So I'm just going to slap my center back together. Because really now, once you start putting this stuff on, it's not really much different than the way you're already making classical tutus. But I do want my first couple layers to line up here. I'm going to try to get away without having to pin anything, but that is not going to happen. Now, if you were putting a hoop in something like this, you would just make your hoop casing the same distance out from the hip edge in your doubled layer rather than trying to, go from the angled edge. So I'm just sewing halfway up my butt, my center back seam. And then I'm going to stick the crotch together. This doesn't have leg elastic or anything. It's more of a mock-up. All right, I'm going to go steam this a little bit, so I'm going to change spots. Blech. I suppose I can turn off this vat of dye. And actually, so we're going to put a towel in the crotch just to kind of simulate that this is going on a human. You can do this all on a dress form too, if you like to do that. So I'm just putting my towel in kind of with an oval shape, and then I'm going to pin my center back of my panty together because we want to see more accurately what's going on. If you have a bosque, you can already have stitched the bosque on by now. Or if this is going on a long line bodice, sometimes what we'll do is we'll pin a piece of tape that's the high hip measurement around where it's going to join the bodice, just so that we don't stretch the panty out too much. So let's give this a little steam from both sides. My towel's escaping. So kind of uncurl your edges that are twisted up first. And the more arranged you get stuff when you're steaming, the less you have to deal with it later. So let me hold it this way. So you can kind of see now what's going on. We've got just little jumps the first few layers, and then it gets a little longer, a little longer, a little longer. And then it's moving nicely out to our side and then evenly out to our back, where it's getting more longer, more longer, more longer, more longer. So the most of the jump or the skip in length is happening at the back. And then actually, let's put this on the dress form. And we're going to kind of tack this one more towards the floor like we did the last time we did these. And I think if you were doing one that's more of a flat tutu that's just a little shorter in the front and a little longer in the back, you could tack it just on the Lazy Susan or on the table or on a dress form, however you like. But this one, since it's much longer in the back, we're going to kind of force it to get, I need my pins. We're going to force it to get, thank you, Sabina, just up there. Yeah, you could actually, we'll pin, I'm going to pin it together a little bit before it gets ruffled. Yep, yep. Yeah, that's cool. Sabina lined the edge of our starburst middle layer just so it's like really obvious to see what's going on. So this one, we're going to actually kind of steam it so that the back is longer, like, you know, on purpose. We're going to kind of embrace our high-lowness and make that actually happen with how we're going to steam it. Maybe if I turn it, does it kind, you can kind of start, yeah, you can kind of start see what's going on. So we've got shorter in the front and longer in the back. And an even amount. So if you wanted to do more like that Caraboss crow we showed you, you could just cut even more length at the back and really shape the back. Let me slide the iron over here. So then you could tie up a couple layers and get the underside steamed. And then start to steam the next layers. And just keep shaping and shaping and shaping. Oop. And this, so if we weren't making this to be flat, right? If we don't want this to end up flat, here's the one time where I would tack a tutu like this just with loops through everything rather than when we do the hoop and cross stitch over the hoop. So this one doesn't, if you want this to be droopy a little bit, you don't need that great big old cross stitch in there. And I'm gonna just fuss a little bit more with the side where my hip is, because remember we did ease a little bit more in there to keep the outside edge even, but we want to lower this just a little bit more. So I'm going to go underneath and kind of kill my underlayer at the side, and then There we go. Kind of, there we go, there we go. So if you were tacking this, in the classical class, we tacked over a hoop with a great big cross stitch. But for this style, I would get my big long needle. I'm gonna start in, these disappear. Where do they go? Down into the box.
Like 1 or 2
I know. Would you hand me those little silver scissors right there? Thank you. Of course, I set this down after the other class, and now I'm gonna just have a total mess to undo. I'm undoing a knot, but I'm just getting some pearl cotton thread. String, yarn. So depending on, right, are these just girls in the back bouncing around? You could get away with just doing some great big long tacks that go, maybe skip 1 and 2. That little tiny short thing isn't ever going to show. It doesn't need a tack in it, but you could do some big long tacks that go from 3 and 4 all the way up to the top if you want. So I'm going kind of through the whole tutu and taking a pretty big bite. And you could thread that just like we did the classical tutu. So this is you're just now starting to control the shape. And if you want, you could tie your knot on the underside or on the top. We'll do them on the top often because nobody's going to see it. So you could do tacks like that where you're going. So now as my tutu is getting longer in the back, I'm coming a little further out. And I'm trying not to catch a big folded over chunk. I'm just trying to make sure that all my layers are single. And I'm just tying a loop. And I'm leaving it a little looser than a classical tutu because I want kind of this droopy shape. If I tie it too tight, it'll flatten it out too much. So I'm leaving like a good 3/4 of an inch to an inch. Like I'm leaving space in my tack. I don't want it to be super duper tight. The other thing you could do is if you're not putting any decoration over this, you could lift up the top 1 or 2 layers. You could lift up a little bit of the top and get that out of the way. I'll just use a pin. You could get your top out of the way. Then you could go in and tack your lower layers together. So right now I'm going to hook 3, 4, 5, and 6. And why not? Let's catch a little bit of 1 and 2. So you could go, oh, this needle just completely bent. This is a cheapy one. And you could do that where we showed in the classical class. If you want to thread all your knots, thread your knots in, come in and tie them. And not always, some folks just say, that there should be 500 knots in here or it's not good. If you place them smart and if you're, work with a little steam at the beginning and a little accuracy and thought as you're going, just putting more tacks in doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. Yeah, we don't like stuff. We like it when the girls jump that the tutu has a little bit of life, unless we're doing something modern and we don't want that. It's a little more romantic, I think, when there's a little bit of bounce. So you could do that. Then your top two, if you wanted to hide your knot. So we just tacked the lower sections together. And we're not doing as many tacks as a flat tutu. If you want to hide your knot in your top, you could fold it up out of the way. You could catch your lower layers that are already tacked. I keep turning the form, I'm sorry. So what I'm doing now is I'm catching some of my lower layers like 3 or 4 inches out. I'm going to catch that. Then I'm going to catch, oh, don't pull your tail through like I just did. Catch your lower layers, leave a tail. Then catch your top layer above it at the same distance. Catch your top and then tie your knot. And then your knot is hidden in between the layers, which is cleaner. But I don't mind the knots because they don't show. And we were saying the other day in the classical class, I think Rachel said, like, we actually kind of like the look of it because then people can see that it's made by hand, and you know, it looks kind of architectural. Yeah, so does anybody have any questions kind of how we got from our first scribbles in the notebook to how we got to this cute little tutu that's short in the front and long in the back? It's like a hybrid. It's not classical, it's not romantic, it's somewhere in the middle. So we'll go to our starburst one now. Yeah, so that's fun. Our whole Midsummer Night's Dream court ladies are all like this. And the silhouette on stage was so pretty from when the girls turned from the front to the back. So there's her from the front. More tacks, get stuff whatever shape you want, and then longer in the back. You could even do some fun kind of Sleeping Beauty-y stuff with this, where you add an extra ruffler to it, the hips, and really make the hips stand out, and then really make the back low. So you can play with the silhouette kind of infinitely. I'm going to take a sip of coffee, and then we're going to get our next thing pinned together. How fun is that? Oh, that's good coffee. Sabina, I'm going to harass you one more time. Up in that panty box, right under the blue thing on the left, there's like 2 mesh chunks that make a panty that could have a seam in it. Would you just serge or stitch the center front together, just so I have something to put this colorful stuff on? And would you hand me that layer that's right there by the ruffler first? Sabina, will you hand me that piece? I thought I had it. I'm just bossing everybody around today. Cool, thanks. Okay, so here's what we've got. We've got our number 3, our longest. Sabina edged number 2 just really quick in a piece of ribbon, just so we can see the edge really well when we put this together. And we have already, Rachel has already ruffled our topmost one. So if we just start to look at our topmost one, you can kind of start to see what's happening. We have these really pretty, oh yeah, it actually shows. We have these really pretty spokes that with a little bit of color in between. And this we put the trim on just to like make it super obvious, because sometimes you'll see where these are really soft and lush and color is all making it happen, and sometimes there's trim on the edge. Houston Ballet's Don Q dryads, the dryads in the dream sequence are done like this, and they're really, really scrumptious. They're designed by Judana. Look on your phone, look up Judana Lynch or Judana Lynn. This is some sketches and costumes to just kind of like check out. So I'm going to open up my number 3. And what I want to do is I'm going to now actually pin, thank you. I'm going to actually pin my peaks and valleys together to make sure that I have got stuff lined up even before I ruffle it. I think I'm going to stitch these together before I ruffle it. Did you find anybody by that name? It's like try Judana. I don't know how you spell Judana. It's like Judana. Try Judana Lynch or Judana Lynn. Or see if you can find Ben Stevenson's Dracula. She's from London, but she designed a lot of stuff for Houston Ballet. And like her stuff is just incredible. But she gets paid per sketch. So like well, I was there for the revival of Ben Stevenson's Dracula, but when it was originally done, she just made every single bride's costume slightly different so that she could get paid for each of the sketches. Smart lady. So now, if there's a little play in my net, like if my top or my bottom seems a little bit longer, I'm just going to squish it in when I ruffle it, and I'm going to stitch these together before I ruffle them, because we're now concerned about that our window frames line up. So we can stick a piece of that one on there. Okay, so I'm going to just work my way across and line up my openings. What else did she design? She designed Houston's Don Quixote. I might have her last name completely wrong. Judana. You tried Lynn too. Judana. Try just Judana costume. Or Judana design. Watch, I probably have the first name completely wrong. What? Can't find anything. If I find it, I'll post it on the student page. So now I'm just pinning my sections that I know need to line up together. And in spots we still have Sharpie marker going on. So that's great. You found it. Is there a picture of a sketch you can hold on the camera? Her stuff is just crazy beautiful. I definitely think I stole my obsession for tiny little details in some way from her, or inspired by her. So now, like, I'm not super stressed out that my center back edges of netting completely match up, because I've been working my way across. See how this one's like not quite in the window? I've been working my way across to match the windows. Is there a sketch? Is there a sketch? Her stuff is just crazy. She's kind of like Desmond Healy style. Little bits of ruffles and. If you do images,
yeah, but it's just like
I'll be able to recognize some ballets in there. Yeah. So I'm just going to the industrial machine and I'm going to just stitch this top edge together before we ruffle it, because I don't want the ruffler sliding things around. And if you were ruffling them separate, I would say to definitely mark every eighth, so that when you're sewing it on the panty, you can match it all up really well. Yeah, that's her. Isn't that fabulous? Look at all those little pieces. I love it. It'd be interesting to see if there's a book of her work. But her dryads, she has a set of dryads where the tops are cut similar to this. And then they have like sparkle organza pleated sections in between the windows, and then like ribbons coming out of the windows. I'm sure my bobbin is going to run out. Like thinking about these dryads I'm talking about, you could even take a section of net and applique like sparkle organza drops or diamonds in there, and then cut the net away and just have little windows or openings with the sparkle organza. Would be very pretty. Oh, I ran out of bobbin. But I know what to do. In our shop, if you run out of bobbin, there's 3 steps. You shut your mouth. That's step 1. Step 2 is fill your bobbin, even though I'm using an old one. And then step 3 is it get back to work, keep sewing. Step 3 is keep sewing. Sabina's got the sign. This is so good. Rachel's the queen of good signs. So just make that for your studio. Grab Be Kind, Don't Double Wind. Can Tom reach that one? This is another good sign.
Some people are so that they don't do that.
Yeah, like a regular person. You mean double winding? Yeah. That actually looks kind of like you as a little boy. Yeah. Does it have a Tom quality to it? No. Oh no. He's So you guys all know what double winding is, right? When you have one color of bobbin and you stick another one over it, drives us nuts. We had a double winder here, and it took a while to figure out who it was, I think. Didn't it? Like, I didn't know right away who was doing it. Yeah. It wasn't Sabina. It was nobody in this room. It wasn't Rick. We just had a double winder, and I don't know. if anybody's coming here for our classes in person, yeah, it's like it's like fat soutache. Yeah, it's like there's like 6 bands of. It's almost like a friendship bracelet, but really tight, the way it's woven. If anybody here is coming in person, we take a shopping trip day to Discount Textile Warehouse, and you can just load up on whole bolts of trims and stuff. Appliques. I really think we can get our little shopping service started too. We want to do where we just go get fun packets of stuff that go together, and then you can just make whatever you want. Like we could pair some trims and stuff together. If you live somewhere that's hard to get fabric. Actually, let's see. Tom, I'm going to give you this to ruffle, if you would. Tom is from Rachel's hometown. They were a year apart in school, and he's recently engaged to a pilot. Paris the pilot. This could be a children's book. Paris the pilot. So just ruffle this edge the whole way. So now that I'm still here, I'm going to put this is my topmost one on. So we'll just do a drawing and take some questions while Tom ruffles. Do we have any questions? Any questions? The next thing I'm going to show you is just kind of the idea of making an oval, which let me find, it doesn't matter, whichever way you want to do it since it's stitched. Let me find a couple pictures here. I want to show you. Let's see. We did, our friend Karen Gilmore, who's from Canada, was here, and she made this just fabulous, how do I find, we worked with her to make an oval tutu that's on my Instagram, I think. Oh, yesterday, right? Yesterday we made, it wasn't a tutu, but we were talking about a Spanish dress that's high-low. That's the base. So that's an organza base with organza ruffled sewn on it, where the front is short and the back is long. And it's exactly what we did yesterday. So if you want a visual of that, that's the visual of that. Here's her back side. So you can see too in the back, she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ruffles, but then her 4th and 2nd ruffles were hidden. They disappeared underneath, so that in the front she only has 3. So she's got 3 ruffles in the front and 6 ruffles in the back. So that ties into yesterday. This also ties into yesterday, hiding a ruffle, or like, so each ruffle goes up beyond the ruffle on top of it. And these are actually ruffles with like a little purple ruffle hidden in between. That's very fun. But I'm looking for this oval tutu. Do you have on yours a good picture of the court ladies? We probably don't have a sideways one. Oh shoot. This one, this is an oval. Which way is that? Can it kind of show? So this doesn't show very well. It's short in the front and short in the back and really long at the sides. And Karen actually took different, I've got another picture of that. She took different kind of taffeta and lame type fabrics, and then stitched netting to all of them. So she flatted taffeta and lame with netting and then ruffled it. So it was just really, really, really incredibly darling. There's her before she's all tacked and stuff. And this is all on the Halsey Onstage Instagram, if you're into Instagram. And then I've also got a picture of it where it's getting all of its candies and stuff. Here you can kind of see better. So the front and back of this are about 4 inches shorter than the sides. And that's just styrofoam stuff lined and trimmed to look like candy. How fun is that? Thank you, Tom. Tom has ruffled our ruffle. So we're going to stick this on our fake panty that Sabina just gave me. So we just have a 1 layer of panty. And we want to make sure that we're actually kind of sticking with our window panes here, and that we're actually putting the front in the front. So I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm going to see that I have a short one in the front, but actually I just want to make sure that each 2 is showing between each one. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting my humps. 1, 2, 3, 4. So actually, I think my middle is actually right there. We have a center back, bump, 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 short, bump, 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 center back. So I'm really, before I do this, I'm really making sure that I have the right thing going on. Like I want to actually make sure I've found the middle. And earlier I said this is my number 1, this is my number 2 and 3. I misspoke. So here my number 2 should come to a point in the center, and then 3 should have a point at each side, and indeed it does. So what I'm holding right now is my 2, and then over here we have our 3s. And even before I stick that on, I'm going to fold my number 1 in half and see if I really truly, because you know when you ruffle or gather stuff, sometimes it doesn't come out completely even. So I'm going to check my 1, and it is falling in between that also. So let's stick these guys on the panty. Now, so this has got a whole tutu underneath it, right? You would want this snowflakey or this flower or whatever kind of shape we're calling this to happen like just in the last like inch of the top of the panty. If you spread these layers all out too far, if you have a lot of space between these, they're not gonna line up and look as perfectly placed as if they're closer together. So we're gonna keep them in like the topish section of this panty. And I've got my middle, and instead of easing more of this at the side, we're going to kind of evenly, so I've got like an extra 4 inches of length here. I'm going to evenly ease it on as I go. And I want to find my front, and I want to actually pin my front on. And I'm going to kind of figure out where my side is and kind of put my side down so that I'm evenly easing the front and back, since we've gone to the work to make this design in here. So I'm just kind of using my fingers, the pins connected to my hands, and fitting that on. I can't believe we don't have a good picture of those court girls. Yeah, you can't really see the skirt. But we have a bodice one. So I'm just continuing to kind of evenly squish on my little bit of extra. Check out my back. I've got to squish on about a little less than 2 inches between the side and the back. And then when I put my topmost layer on, this will be the time that like I actually pin a tiny bit more, because here's where I can like, we know these guys line up because we pinned them on the table and Tom ruffled them together. But the next one, I'm going to put a few more pins because I want to make sure that all my windows have a choir member standing in between them. I'll run out of bobbin on the next one. Okay, it's starting to look like a thing. How pretty. So now I'm going to take my top, and I found my middle. So each color burst of my top should match a point of, so each color concentration of my first layer is centered on a point of my third layer, okay? So I'm going to pin my center fronts together, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin my back. Oh, look, I pinned the front to the side. Whoops. I'm going to pin my center front to my center front. Checking that each color burst of a 1 is centered with the point of 3. Then I'm going to pin my back. Okay. And I'm putting this one just a half an inch above the last one. We want them a little closer together. If you stuck them right on top of each other, it'll just be a little harder to sew it all later. That looks cute. It's too nipply. Yeah, yeah. Can you put 3 there? Put some leaves underneath it. So now I can see that this might not show to you guys, but I can see where my window is by how this is dyed. So my 3 underneath is full of purple, and my 2 has a white space. So I'm centering every purple number 1 over every 2's white space. Like I can see my windows by using the dye. So use whatever you've got, whether it's the dye or whether you marked 8ths. Because if this got a little bit off on one side, it's going to be a lot of bit off on the other side. You know what I mean? Jelly bean. They're decorating the last of our clowns. We had to decide if something was too nipply. Not for some crowds. So now I continue to match my chorus members to their window, and I'm using the die, how the die is placed to figure it out. And I'll still have a smidge of ease between each spot, but I'm lining this up even more careful than I normally would, because it's all about how it's lined up now. That guy matches to there. And when we'll put a little steam on this, even though it's missing the rest of the tutu, you get the idea. When you're steaming and tacking this stuff down, you also can take some time to make sure stuff is all lined up. Line it up. So I have little bits of ease here, but it's kind of spread between 2 pins, and it's a little more precise. Years ago, our friend Carol Klinko did a whole tutu that was inverted, where all the longest layers were shortest at the crotch, and it just got shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. It was so cool. It started a trend even. I'm going to run out of bobbin. Making sure I'm approaching my middle. That's where you really want to make sure stuff's lined up. And we'll just slap the center back and crotch of this together. It's looking good. Little bit of ease left to get my backs to line up. And we're gonna steam this in a minute and really look at it from the top down, except, oh my gosh, look how far ago I ran out of bobbin. I even said it. I said I'm gonna run out of bobbin. Maybe I just need to fill a bobbin quick, you guys. This is how lazy I am. I'm like looking for any scrap of any color. Come on. I only got about halfway. And then I grab a bobbin that doesn't fit. Okay. We're gonna see if there's enough left in this guy. I really should have just wound a bobbin. I'll straight stitch it so I have more length. And now my bobbin is stuck. Rachel, I'm striking out here. I had the wrong bobbin. I've got that mysterious third thread that just shows up from the bottom sometimes. There's an industrial machine group on Facebook that I kind of creep on. And it's funny, every now and then, like on a home machine or an industrial machine, it'll like the whole machine will lock up. It's usually because there's like a teeny itty bitty piece of thread behind in your bobbin case. Now I lost my middle. Where's my middle? Right there. And you just have to like get behind there with a tweezer and get it out. And in this industrial group, everybody was saying, oh no, it's more than that. Her machine is froze. They were talking about all these things to remove. And then the lady actually took it to her sewing machine guy, and there was like a 3/4 inch piece of thread on the bobbin, behind the bobbin case, keeping it all from sewing. I didn't say anything. I just stayed quiet. You know me. If this bobbin runs out too, we've got enough going on. I'm still kind of like checking my windows of color. So even though there's not the rest of the tutu under here, we're still going to kind of sew up our center back a little bit, just so we can shove a towel in it and give it some steam. That itch is coming to here. This is my least favorite part of making a tutu, is connecting the center back. I used to hand sew it, but we only need to connect a little bit since this is just a teaching sample. Stitch a little of the crotch together. Did I sew it with the seam on the outside? No, wouldn't matter. We're just looking. So now, oh, but I did catch a little piece in there. This sewing is not representative of my best skill. It's just so we can look. Threads all over, yeah, that's me. And now it's stuck because my bobbin ran out. Yeah. Again, but we're done. Okay, let's take this to the little ironing board and actually tack it a little bit. And we might just stick it on top of our high-low one so that we can see it a little bit better. Well, thanks, Rachel. So I'm going to shove my towel in here again that I just threw on the floor. That's perfect. Now it doesn't look like a nipple. Yeah. The word of the day is nipple. So there's not a whole lot to shove this into or to control because we don't have all the netting on here. But it's so we can start to see what we've actually done here. I'm glad we edged that one layer because you can really see what's going on. I'm going to pin my center back together just because it's like the better way to look at stuff. And we are going to give this a little bit of steam. So first I'm just going to give it a little steam to warm it up, and then I'm going to kind of like focus my steaming on getting people to sit in their right part of the window. So this pink edge that really shows, you could imagine if you trimmed all of this, you'll have a real distinct kind of starburst snowflake decoration going on. So you could do flower petals by cutting it curved. You could do all sorts of stuff. So I'm not really lining stuff up yet. I'm just trying to tame it a little bit. And my iron needs to recharge. Is it showing? Yeah, it's showing. Is there a picture of your Titania? No, who is it? Your Gold Queen's edges anywhere? I'm having Rachel hunt for another picture. So, you know, like this trim on the edge, she did one where she did all the edges with gold lame and gold lame fabric, and then gold leaf some on it. But she did kind of random edges, you know, instead of planned out, because we wanted a more organic look, and it turned out really cool. So now, even though I'm on the underside, I can kind of find my point and see where it needs to lie in between. So as you work your way around, you just start, I'm just now starting to like get points sitting in their windows. And you can fold this edge up, this ribbon edge, you can decide how many gathery looking things you want in it based on how you fold it up. Yeah, so that's all edges cut and then edged with gold lame and then gold leaf. And that's on Rachel's Instagram. Just look up @RachelFinzen. A lot of pretty ideas. And we want you to use them all. So I just kind of keep finding my window. Then let's flip it over and come back to the top. And you would just continue to steam and match stuff up. And actually this, when you're tacking this, you can really get stuff lined up too when you're tacking it. Like I would even say you can kind of like pre-pin some sections, you know, where you know that this point is matching that point. You can kind of pre-pin some of it so that when you steam it, it's going to, you know, start to fall right where you want it. I'm going to steal a couple pins from our girl. So like I've got my window here, and here's my window that I want this layer hanging into. Up in the panty, they're lined up, but with my first kind of steam, they're not. So if I kind of just start to force them to line up a little bit more right away, then as I continue to steam, see that I already moved that over to the right spot. As you continue to steam, you just keep working at getting stuff falling in the right place. So, and then like if you have a lace edge like this, see how I've got this big long flat chunk there and then a big old pleat? I would start figuring out like, what do I actually want that edge to look like? Do I want it to have 2 little pleats or 3 little pleats? You know, it's going to want to do its own thing, but you can start to control that too by how you steam it. So if I like, see, I've scrunched this little bit of point up a little bit more. If I bake that a little bit, watch your hand. If I start, see, if as you start to bake that, you can start to really create, like look how much more interesting that little bit is than this next bit over. So take your time really getting stuff arranged. You could even, just messing with this now, I was thinking if I had a binder clip, I do, look. You could even start arranging your little sections of stuff. Binder clip it together and then steam it. You could binder clip like each of your things into its right window, steam it, and then undo the binder clips. Ooh, I like that. That's fun. Let me do another one of those. So I'm finding my point in my number 2. Like a what?
Like a passion flower.
Oh, Sabina said it looks like a passion flower. I don't know the passion flower. Is it Hawaiian?
I'll look it up.
Yeah. Oh, I like this like little binder clip idea. Steam out where the binder clip is too. Fun. So then this one you would probably tack from the top or do our trick where we use the button ear. This you can get from a lot of places. We get ours from Kenco Gun Price Tagging in Milwaukee or Madison, Wisconsin. But you could take, as you're working through your points, peaks, and valleys, we just put a sequin on. We slide a sequin on the needle. There it is. Then we stab it through, and then we put a sequin under the needle to act like a washer. So I'm going to just take a section. Needs more time by hand. You know, we need to spend this one, you know, the more you get it lined up, the prettier it's going to be. So I've put my washer underneath. Then you kind of have to hold the sequin underneath and pull the trigger. But look, there now we have a sparkle and it's helping hold something down. So cool. Does anybody have questions about like this idea? Work it out on paper first. Gosh, that's pretty. I think, oh, I'm like holding it totally not in the right place. So just go to town, right? People should go to town with this. Let's real quick draw out the oval, even though I think you guys already totally get that. And then we'll take a few questions and I'll get yesterday's recording out because I think it's ready by now. It takes them forever to save it online. And then remember on the day 1 recording, I was a hot mess at the end of the day. So just don't pay any attention to the last layer we cut out. Start with us cutting out today. But to do that oval one, which is on Instagram, it's kind of the same idea. So for the oval, you've got two sides, right? So you've got your piece of fabric. And if we think about it, we can think about it first just doubled. So we've got 2 layers of netting, right? We have 2 layers of netting folded up. We have a front, we have a back. The back is our open edge, the front is on the fold. And if you want to cut an oval, you're just figuring out how long you want the front to be, how much you want at the side of your oval, flatten out a little bit, and then go back up to the back. So when this is ruffled, so you can curve it a little bit. If you, since there's so much length in the net, if you just cut it with a point, when it's all done up, it's not going to look like a point. But when that one's done up, you end up with shorter in the front and back and longer at the sides, which is really cute. When they spin in this, it's a little more, it's a kind of got a goofy, youthful feeling because it doesn't just spin evenly because the front and back are short. Yeah, so that makes sense, I think, right after we've been through all this other stuff. So that's times 2 layers. You could fold this in half again. You could do this in fourths just so that you end up with each side being longer and the front and back being shorter. And then as you continue underneath your skirt, you just keep taking away. And then your undermost 2 or 3 layers can just be the same width the whole way across, unless you want to really get into it and make it all ovular. We're done a few minutes earlier. Who drew what? Cheryl drew that. That's me sewing outside the box with big Frankenstein shoes. I want to find a picture of this London Royal Ballet one too. Yes, we have a question.
Could you repeat the thing about sparkle, organza, and gold?
Oh yeah, that's just fun. So there's some old, this lady that we were looking up, what did we decide her name is? Judana Lynn. She's done some dryads where you've got, here's your big long half of a layer, right? This is one side of the body. And then it's cut like that maybe. The dryads, one of the layers, it might be 2 of the layers for Houston's Don Q, they have these big wide diamonds like this. So we replaced a few of them too when I was there. So we're drawing this big shape on our netting that's already cut. We were drawing these huge diamonds. And then we were laying underneath it a piece of sparkle organza. So under the diamond, we were laying sparkle organza. Then we were zigzagging on this line that we drew. So your sparkle organza is just a big blob, right? You get it zigzagged to the net. Then we used applique scissors, which are those like flat duckbill scissors. Then we cut out the netting, and then we trimmed away the extra bit of organza underneath, and then we put gold trim in the windows so that when this is ruffled, you have your color of netting and your shape of netting holding this like little window pane of sparkle organza or lace or whatever you want, and then all of that is ruffled up. And it takes a little more time steaming, but then that all gets ruffled, and you have these like little windows inside of your piece of netting. You end up with like the little window of sparkle organza inside there. And that's really fun too. And then put a bow between each one, and if you know, diamonds and jewels and stuff. I'll take another question or two. I just want to find this London Royal Ballet. Is it the Jewels? I know Jewels is a ballet, but in the second half of Sleeping Beauty, what are the 3 girls? It's like the Temperance Fairy becomes, is it Ruby, Sapphire, Diamond? I'll take somebody ask another question, or I'm going to just hunt for a picture, or we'll say goodbye and I'll send you a picture. Let me try London Royal Ballet, Sleeping Beauty, Diamond. I'm striking out, but those are ovals. They're really fabulous. They're like ovals with a little bit of a hip in it, and I will hunt down a picture and just put it on the Facebook page so everybody can see. They've got so many versions of Sleeping Beauty. Nope. No questions? We'll say goodbye then. And thank you everybody again. And a couple, two gals that were in this class sent me some patterning questions. So if anybody is interested that's new, because we do have some new people between this and the last two classes, if you're interested in patterning, we'll probably be doing our patterning course of classes again in the fall. But if you're interested, you can also buy our past recordings. And I would say if anybody buys our past recordings from this group of students, we will just put you in the live classes also so that you can ask any questions that come up. But if you're like Jones and to get going, we can give you the past recordings. I can't find this. They have so many versions. I'll find it and send it to you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Turn the machine on. The webinars are done for months. Oh, I'm so excited. That's a lot. I thought 2 hours, 7 days in a row, that's nothing.
It's hard to be on, and the thing is when you're teaching like this, you're always talking. You're not.
Well,
You don't get very
it's
much
funny
feedback.
when they don't ask questions.
Yeah, they don't ask
Usually they ask questions and then